The views and opinions expressed on Unlock Your Wealth Radio are those of the host, guests, and callers only and are not necessarily the views of Unlock Your Wealth Radio, Heather Wagenhals, or Success Publishing International.
More willpower than a barefoot woman at a shoe sale, able to stretch a single paycheck for an entire month. Makes money concepts easier than third-grade math. Introducing your purveyor of prosperity, Heather Wagenhals.
Work all day, stress all night. Take your mind off your money and focus on your life. Money don't matter or the stuff it bought. It's the way you think, not what you've got, yeah.
Unlock Your Wealth Radio starts now. It's the Money Mind Ride.
Welcome to Unlock Your Wealth Radio. This segment is sponsored in part by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at unlockyourwealthradio.com/freebook and click on the link to over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Welcome, everyone. I'm Heather Wagenhals, your purveyor of prosperity here at the Unlock Your Wealth Foundation, and I am flanked by the maestro of moolah, Michael Terry.
Hey, folks.
And we also have Dinero, the Prosperity Poochie, in-house. So we have a fabulous show in store for you today. I'm so excited. We have a wonderful moolah word of the day that has to deal with what our guest is going to talk to us about. We have a very special guest. I met this woman at Freedom Fest, and we did a wonderful TV interview with her, which you can find on our YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/Heather Wagenhals. Woot! Just find me on YouTube and check out our channel, and you can see all of our interviews from Freedom Fest. But this one we're going to play on the show. And Gena Lofton will be joining us. She has had a storied career, but currently, she is the owner and founder of Passive Income Advisors, and she's going to talk to us about building wealth through real estate and some of the financial education workshops that she does. She's got another one actually coming up, I think, from an organization that she created called WREN, which is Women Real Estate Investors. Oh. Like a Women Real Estate Network, Investors Network, but it's WREN, like a little birdie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, so we're going to have a great conversation with her. Really dynamic woman, has an incredible, I have like an enviable real estate portfolio. Wow. I invest in real estate and I love real estate because it's an asset-backed investment. But she's ahead of me. Wow. You know, like my husband always says, you know, no matter how big you build it, there's always a faster gun. Well, she's my faster gun.
Which part of the country?
She's all over the world, actually. Yeah. So we're going to get to really enjoy that interview. And we also have a key to feature this week. What is our key, Maestro?
Our key, number 5, is take emotion out of the picture.
Our key is now its own show, but let me just kind of tease you, if you will, of what's in store on that show. So you can visit that show at keys2riches.com, or just listen to it from our Libsyn channel, or wherever you find our show, Blog Talk, Spreaker, SoundCloud, wherever you find us. You'll also have access to the Keys to Riches show. But if you just want exclusive Keys to Riches content, keys2riches.com is where you'll find that. And our 5th key is our critical function, because last week we addressed our knowledge checklist, because knowledge is power, not knowing is powerful. And we addressed the 3 questions and 5 areas of concern in our 3-5 financial strategy. And we've already addressed where am I and where am I going? And we're going to learn what's the difference over 2 more keys. And we are also going to learn some of the 5 areas of concern that we need to address. But the critical piece lies in the next 2 keys, this key and next week's key, which is hope for the best, plan for the worst, because this has to do with our biological, if I could say that.
Say that again. I bet you can't do it.
Biological. I got it right that time. And so we do a biological approach to money management. And it's because we already know to spend less and save more, but we don't. And there's a reason for it. And that's where this week's key comes into play. Yeah. Because here we learn about the Three Amigos model of information processing, which is a way that I've created to simply explain how the body responds to information and why, if we don't control our biological responses to our thoughts and the environment, then we're not going to be able to be effective at money management long term, because based on our DNA, we are biologically set up to fail at long-term anything management, weight management, money management, career management, relationship management, all of that out the window based on the way our brain works.
a little flaw in the construction, huh?
Yeah, well, it's because of the way our brains evolved. And if you want a detailed explanation, then visit keys-to-riches.com for this week's show. Because that's where I talk all about it. And I explain how we process information. And why is that important? You're like, hey, I am not a neuroscientist. I am not a neurobiologist. I'm not a psychologist, and I don't want to know.
It's important, trust me.
But you need to know, whether you want to or not, is irrespective of why you need to know. Because if you are having challenges in your money management, you can find the flaw probably with your biological responses to things. Mm-hmm. So it's critical that we figure this out. You know, I have spoken all over the world, and I've taught significant workshops. And when I first created this key, it was initially understanding that we don't want to be totally non-emotional, because we want to keep our passions in perspective when we think about taking emotion out of the picture. And originally I described this key as being passionate and excited and enthusiastic about earning money. But we wanted to keep our passions in perspective and be impartial when it came to spending and investing our money, because we can make ineffective investment decisions too. Mm-hmm. And so and that's a big deal. So we have to be really careful when it comes to that, because if we don't manage that part correctly, then we're going to have catastrophic events, or we're going to be riding roller coasters the rest of our life. And if you're tired of the Ferris wheel of finance, then that's how you get off the ride, is understanding why the things that are happening to you. And it goes beyond emotion. And with all of the brain research that's evolved since I created the keys now, what is it, 15 years ago, 16 years ago? It's been a long time. Wow. You know, so they've evolved as brain research has evolved. And so I've created a simplistic, non-sophisticated way for you to understand with my little cartoon characters. I've got the I Do, the initial decision officer. I've got the crazy curmudgeon, and then Logic Larry. And we'll learn how those three actually work together. But you got to tune into that show on keys-to-riches.com. So go over there. Plus, you'll also get the key statement, key affirmation, and key action item for this week, too. So that's important. If you are following and practicing the Keys to Riches financial philosophy, then you'll want to make sure that you get this week's homework assignment. Well, so that's it for our key. Moolah word of the day.
Boy, my favorite.
Moolah word of the day has to do with, it goes along very well with this week's guest. So it's debt coverage ratio. It's more like a phrase for our moolah phrase of the day. And the debt coverage ratio is the amount of available cash from renting a property in relation to the amount of money necessary to pay the mortgage. This figure is calculated by dividing the net operating income, NOI, by a property's annual debt service. Another way that you can think of it, if you want to drill it down and make it easier to understand, is debt coverage ratio can be, because the factor will still be the same because it's a ratio. So it has to do with the relationship of one to the other. And so if you think about it, you take your rental income, and it can be on a monthly basis too. You take your rental income and you divide it by the monthly mortgage payment, and it'll give you a number. And so if your debt coverage, meaning your rent, is higher than your monthly mortgage payment, you'll have a 1 point something number. Most underwriters, when they do, and this is for commercial lending, most underwriters look for a 1.25 ratio, meaning like 125%. So your rent is 125% of your mortgage payment, if you think about it in those terms. When you think about applying for a normal mortgage, they look at your they have different ratios. So they have a housing ratio and they have a total debt ratio. And they do that in relation to your income, but it's different because it's not about the relationship dollar for dollar. It's about how much of your payment takes up how much of your income. So it's a different calculation. Yeah. And so residential real estate and some 1 to 4 unit, like small multifamily residential rentals can use regular residential qualifying. But if you're going for commercial qualifying or commercial lending, like you're doing 5 or more units, you'll likely hit this debt coverage number. So you need to make sure that your rents are in line. If not, you're going to have to put more down payment down, right, so your loan amount gets smaller so you can meet their debt coverage requirements, because these are hard and fast rules. And especially with this recent real estate crash, because we didn't learn our lesson the first time with bad mortgages, that you have to abide by the debt coverage ratio. It can't be less than 1. Because that means that your rent is more. That means you're coming out of pocket every month to pay that mortgage. And it can't be just 1 because you also have maintenance that has to happen that you as the owner of the property have to maintain. You know, the exterior of the building, maybe there's an HOA and, painting and upkeep and all that stuff. That's not the responsibility of your tenant.
Right.
So this is an important one because this is how you calculate your return on the investment. And because you have to create, and this is where people make mistakes. And so that's why debt coverage ratio is important, because if you don't have that quarter difference, you don't have 2 things. You don't have money for sinking funds for replacements, because like carpet and tile wear out. Walls need to be painted, exteriors need to be maintained. So you need to have that. Plus you need to have profit, because why else are you doing it? Right?
Yeah.
You got to have profit built in. And when you qualify, here's what's great about this. So the debt coverage ratio is 1.25. When you qualify for an investment property, like say you're applying for a single family home and you want to do non-owner occupied, they're going to go with the traditional underwriting standards. But here's what's going to happen. So you need to have a 25% gross margin or gross profit. So your mortgage payment needs to be 125 to 150% of that mortgage payment. Your rent needs to be
rent,
and here's why: because you're going to have to you have to do your profit taking, and you have to have that 25% cushion. But the reason why is if you don't price it accurately, you're not going to get the right ratios for qualifying, because an underwriter will only take 75% of documented rental income, not a piece of paper that says, "Oh, you and I agree that the rent is going to be X."
Yeah.
They want to see rent receipts, deposits. They want to be able to track that some way. And so because there's that fudge factor, they're not going to give you 100% dollar for dollar credit when you go to qualify. So they're going to pull that off the top. They're going to take that 25% somewhere. And so it's going to come off of that. So if you're not at 150%, then you're not making any money, because you've got to have that 25% spread, because out of that 25%, because they dock you that 25%, you've got to be able to fill reserves.
So if your mortgage payment is $1,000, you want to be charging $1,500 for rent. Right. Gotcha.
Right. And one of my properties, because my interest rates are so low, I'm on, and it's in a high demand area. Rent's like, double.
Yeah.
The mortgage I have.
Wow.
200%.
Nice.
Yes. So if I got docked on the income,
Yep.
and they take 0.75, I'm way ahead of the game. I'm getting more in my income qualifying, which means my ratios will be lower, so they'll be more likely to give me the money, or I'll be able to finance a bigger chunk.
And that's not a capital gains. That's just regular income, right? When you make a profit from a rent like that, that's just
Capital gains would be on the sale.
on the sale of it, right?
Because you're going to take depreciation, you're going to take all these deductions off of that, all of the expenses for the property, all that stuff's going to be written down first, so you get your net number, and so that's income. But a capital gain is the purchase and sale of stuff.
Right. So
it's a totally different calculation.
Yeah.
And it occurs at a totally different time period, I guess, is what I really should say.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your little moolah word of the day and real estate lesson on qualifying. And it's just, ratios are part of the 4 layers of risk. And we learn about that in the Remember Real Estate Key. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to drill down more on that, visit keys2riches.com and just drop in the search bar key 10, which is Remember Real Estate. And you'll be able to pull up all the past shows that we've had on it. And I don't always touch on the same things every time. So you can just keep searching and you'll find one of the shows where I focus on that income layer of risk. Yeah. Or what they call capacity. So you've got character, capacity, capital, collateral. So character is your credit rating and the amount of debt you're carrying. Then you have capacity, which is your ability to repay the loan. You have capital, which is your down payment and cash reserves left over. And then collateral is the value of the asset that you're buying. Yeah. So that's how that fits in. So you're taking what's on the credit report and you're comparing it to both the capacity and capital. So if your ratios are off, you can do a few different things. You can pay more money down. Right. Is one way to do it. Or you can get a second mortgage that maybe another lender will let you go with a higher ratio. Mm-hmm. When it comes to your investment property, sometimes they let you stack those. I've been out of the game since they changed some of the rules. So you'll have to check in with the lender because I don't do that kind of lending anymore. I do secondary financing and I do direct asset-backed investing where I make loans, but it's a niche area that I work in. So my underwriting standards are different than everybody else's. I ask for firstborn child and things like that. But let's get ready for our interview. This week's interview with Gena Lofton is sponsored in part by KeepMyID.org, the only service that actually prevents identity theft. All others are just monitoring services. Put your credit on lockdown for Unlock Your Wealth Radio listeners by visiting our website at unlockyourwealthradio.com/keepmyid and click on the link to start protecting your financial future right now. Remember to use promo code WAGS. So this guest is a wonderful woman that I met at Freedom Fest. Gena Lofton is joining us, and she is the owner and founder of Passive Income Advisors, LLC, which is a digital education company which provides working professionals, particularly women, with the knowledge and tools they need to make a JOB optional. And JOB, most people refer to as just over broke. Her flagship products are the Financial Freedom Formula course and Escape the Madness. The 10 Steps to Get Out of the Rat Race book of hers are based on many of the principles of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad empire and have helped many people around the globe, which Sharon Lechter is a regular guest of ours. What's interesting about her is her background. Her corporate career is expansive, having worked for Jet Propulsion Laboratories, Ernst & Young, and most recently, DIRECTV. Over 30 million people in the United States and Latin America have used many of the products Gena influenced, such as 4K TV, NFL Sunday Ticket, and DIRECTV streaming products. All hardware since the introduction of the high-definition television to the Genie Box. Gena transformed the linear advertising sales business with the development of a solution to deliver targeted advertising, which generates $1 billion with a B, as in, boy, that's a lot of money, annually. Now, here's where this week's Moolah word plays in. Gena owns over 2,500 units in 4 states and a resort in Belize. All of her real estate holdings were acquired between 2012 and 2016 after the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, while she simultaneously built and sold DIRECTV. And now we have an opportunity to listen in on my interview with her from Freedom Fest. So take a listen, shall we? Heather Wagenhals here, host of Unlock Your Wealth Radio and Unlock Your Wealth TV. And we are broadcasting from Freedom Fest. We're in our final stretch here at Freedom Fest. And I am so excited because we have another financial guru. And this woman walks her talk. I'm so excited to have on Gena Lofton. Gena, welcome to Unlock Your Wealth TV.
Thank you, Heather. Glad to be here. It's very exciting. It's just met some amazing people like yourself that are really about liberty and financial freedom. And I'm here to educate all of the people that have come here over the weekend.
Now, you're getting ready to present in a few minutes. Now, let's just briefly, how did you come to become a financial educator?
Yeah, that's a really
Tell
good
me the
question.
path.
So I grew up as a homeless foster kid since I was 2 years old, and I, was abused and ran out of foster homes, and then went to college and got my education, but still didn't want to depend on a husband or a government or a job to take care of my financial education. And read a little purple book some years ago, and I said, "Oh my God, I need to figure this out." I was working for a company called Ernst & Young and building that business, and then began my real estate investing career, and that's what really set it off. And today I have 2,500 units in 4 states and own a company you might have heard of called DIRECTV, in which we sold to AT&T just recently.
Yes, and you saved me money by doing that because I've combined my bills now. So thank you.
Wonderful. Glad you're a customer.
You're building my financial freedom. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, that's no small task. Holy smokes.
No, I'm very, very proud of that. I mean, and it was an asset, right? I mean, I was a stockholder, a shareholder of DIRECTV, and I realized many years ago, I went there to build that asset, and many people were not building an asset. They were working for money, and many of them are not able to retire today as a result of that, unfortunately, even though I was building my real estate portfolio, I was still building this other asset called DIRECTV, and therefore I was a shareholder. So it's really important that people understand that even though you might work, and I was a high income working professional, so my taxes were really high, and I learned about taxes and understanding how to be a real estate investor and using those advantages to reduce my W-2 income. So now I have a online training course to help other high income earners achieve financial freedom by reducing their taxes and using debt.
So what is your ideal student? So if I'm looking at your course, like what kind of a person am I? What is my income, or what do I do? And why would I want to take your course?
Well, most people that earn their income in a W-2 or a 1099 that make over, let's just say $200,000 a year, are the high income earners. And they're paying on a federal level about 40% to taxes. If you live in a high income tax state such as California, where I live, that's another 14%. So you're paying over 50% of your money to taxes. And then if you add housing on top of that, that's another 30%. And food and energy is 20%. So that's 100% of your money is going away to something other than investing. So I advise those who actually work within my course is to focus on, let's reduce that largest expense, which is taxes. Then and only then do you have money to invest into income producing assets.
That's fantastic. I'm really excited about that. I'm excited that you are a female doing this. I'm a big Atlas Shrugged fan. I'm an objectivist, and so I'm all about the Dagny girl power. Yeah. So that's really neat. What are you going to focus on in today's talk?
Just that, of why it's so important for you to begin doing this really quickly. Because, if you have the low income people, the middle income, and the high income, those are the only 3 groups that there are. So we all know that the middle income is pretty much becoming extinct. And it's a result of taxes and, pretty much flat wages that we've had for the last 10 years. So you need to pick which of the other two you want to be within. Do you want to be on the lower income or do you want to be on the higher upper income? And I decided long ago I wanted to be on the higher income and I wanted to pay taxes like Warren Buffett. And he pays about 17.4% of his income to taxes. And that was my target. And I want to pay no more than Warren.
I remember when Ross Perot was running for president and everybody was talking about his effective tax rate of only 6%. They're like, how does that happen?
Exactly.
And I said, well, the question isn't how does that happen? It's how do I get in on it?
Exactly. And a lot of people don't realize that earning your income in different ways generate different types of taxes. So if you just do what the government wants you to do and provide jobs and to provide housing, you are given incentives in order to have your taxes reduced because you're doing what the government wants you to do. So it's not like a loophole or anything that's illegal. It's just doing the things that the government wants you to do and taking advantage of that.
Absolutely, because I mean it's there for a reason in the tax code.
Absolutely.
So why don't we capitalize on that?
Yeah.
So if there was one thing that you could say, so let's say as an individual, I grew up a scrapper, much like yourself. Dad left when we were small. It was just me, my mom, and my brother. And so as a woman investor, and as somebody that came up from poverty and was able to generate the high income, but had a challenge, translating that into investments. What's that first step? What kind of advice can you give a woman who is afraid to take that step? Well, what if I lose my money? What if I make a mistake? How do they mitigate that?
Yeah, I think educating themselves, right? Listening to your program for one, and listening to others out there that have experience. I'm taking training courses, reading books, and then beginning to get knowledge in that particular investment type. I invest in many different types of assets, right? Real estate, I have oil and gas, I have businesses, I have a digital company. So find an alliance group. There's just so many things that are on the internet today. The barrier of entry is very low compared to what it used to be. I mean, you could pretty much just Google anything and you can find an affinity group in your local area, in your local community. Join that, begin to get knowledge in that particular area. And I also suggest working as an apprentice sometimes for free.
I love that.
Right? I did that. I mean, and I do that even to this day. When I don't know something, I will volunteer so I can learn about that business. And then you're able to minimize your risk. I don't go and invest in anything unless I learn it. I mean, so for example, let's just say oil and gas. I'm doing that now because I've been studying it for about 5 years, right? So now I feel comfortable enough that I know what are the risks and I know who are the key players, right? Because there's a lot of, I was a victim of a Ponzi scheme one time, actually, just for years ago. And not to say that won't happen again, I hope not, but I'm trying to make sure that my risks are minimized by knowing who are the players in those particular asset classes. I mean, coming here to Freedom Fest as an example. So this is a really good opportunity to meet and greet some of those people in all of those various industries for a very low investment.
Oh, no question, because you pay for one ticket, but you get all these different things. And I was surprised, we were doing some interviews, and I had no idea about rare coins. And we got to interview a gentleman, and I had an incredible education about just rare coins and the value add that those have over other asset type of investments. So I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
Well, if folks are interested in taking your online course, where do they find it?
So they can just go to my website, which is passiveincomeadvisors.com, and they can learn all about the course, all of the modules. There's a lot of free information that's there and videos. So by all means, go there and look up the information and then do your research. And I will be more than willing to help anyone that is looking to achieve financial freedom, because that's true liberty, right? I mean, at the end of the day, there is nothing more liberating. I never wanted to be homeless again. And I won't, because I own the buildings now.
I know that's got to be such an empowering feeling for you.
It is.
Well, good luck with your next presentation for this evening as you kind of send us home with one of the last knock it out of the ballpark presentations today. And we will look forward to your online courses and more. So for those of you who are viewing at home or listening on the radio and driving around without a pencil, never fear, unlockyourwealthradio.com is here, where you can visit Gena's show page and get all the linky links to her good stuff and so much more. So for Gena Lofton, I'm Heather Wagenhals. Now go out and unlock your wealth today.
UnlockYourWealthRadio.com is produced by Heather Wagenhals and the Unlock Your Wealth Foundation. UnlockYourWealthRadio.com and its affiliates are copyrighted 2016 with all rights reserved. For more information on the Keys to Riches Financial Wellness Series, please visit our website at www.unlockyourwealth.com.